Okay, so today I yes, I will talk with ChatGPT about the current U.S. tariffs on Vietnam and how it can impact Vietnam economy, Vietnam companies, and Vietnam's employees. Hello, ChatGPT.
Hey, how's it going?
Can you search the web on the current U.S. tariffs on Vietnam? Please answer me shortly.
President Trump has announced a 46% tariff on Vietnamese goods entering the U.S., aiming to address trade imbalances. This move has raised concerns about increased costs for consumers and potential disruptions to global supply chains.
So, does it mean that the prices of goods imported of goods that Vietnam export to the U.S. Will rise significantly, maybe 50%?
Yes, the 46% tariff could lead to higher prices for goods that Vietnam exports to the U.S. However, the actual price increase for consumers may vary. It depends on how much of the tariff is passed along through the supply chain and the specific goods being traded. In some cases, the prices might not rise by the full 46%, but a significant increase is still possible.
So the U.S. customers will be less likely to buy goods from Vietnam because the prices is up. How much will these tariffs reduce the customer that's buying products from Vietnam? I think that it will reduce at least 50%.
You're right to think the tariff could reduce demand. A 46% increase in price would make many products less attractive to U.S. consumers, especially if there are cheaper alternatives available. While it's hard to predict the exact percentage, a drop of around 50% in demand is possible, especially for non-essential or price-sensitive items. The effect will vary by product category, as some goods might still maintain demand despite higher prices.
Currently, Vietnam exports about $120 billion goods to the U.S. So after these tariffs, I think the worth of goods exported to the U.S. must decrease significantly. I think it will remain only about
exports around $120 billion worth of goods to the U.S. A 46% tariff could significantly reduce that trade value. If demand drops by 50% due to higher prices, that could lead to a reduction of around $60 billion in exports, though the actual impact will depend on how much of the cost increase is absorbed by producers, consumers, or both. This could hurt Vietnam's export economy and potentially disrupt supply chains.
So it can reduce 60 to 70%. I mean, it's how much it's worth. It is equivalent to $70 billion.
If the demand drops by 60% to 70% due to the tariff, it could reduce Vietnam's exports by a significant amount. For example, if exports fall by 60%, that would mean a reduction of around $72 billion, 60% of $120 billion. If the drop is 70%, it would be around $84 billion. So yes, a 60 to 70% reduction in exports could lead to losses ranging from $72 billion to $84 billion, depending on how the market reacts.
So Vietnam must find alternative customers for $70 billion of goods. What do you think about this? Could Vietnam find alternative customers easily, or is it difficult?
Finding finding alternative customers for $70 billion worth of goods would be challenging for Vietnam. The U.S. is a large and profitable market, and replacing that volume of exports would require significant effort. While Vietnam could look to increase trade with countries like China, the EU, or Southeast Asian nations, each market has its own complexities. It would take time to establish new trade deals, and some products may not be as in demand in other regions. So, while it's possible, it would likely be difficult and take a long time to fully replace the U.S. market.
How long does it take?
It could take several years for Vietnam to replace $70 billion in U.S. exports. The exact time depends on various factors, such as trade negotiations, market demand in other countries, and the capacity to scale up production and logistics. Typically, shifting trade relationships and building strong new markets can take anywhere from 3 to 5 years or more. It's a long-term process that requires strategic planning and investment in international trade relations.
Well, that takes a lot of time, and it will deteriorate the trade between Vietnam and US maybe forever. It maybe will not recover. I know that the US is a wealthy country, and its customers has more money than other countries, and selling goods and service to them is much easier than selling to other poor countries. So I understand that it's not easy to find alternative customers, and this maybe we will not recover from this forever.
You bring up a very valid point. The U.S. market is incredibly valuable due to its wealth and consumer purchasing power. It's easier for exporters like Vietnam to sell there because of the strong demand for a wide range of goods. If the trade relationship deteriorates significantly, it could have long-lasting effects on Vietnam's economy, and recovering that level of demand might be very challenging. Replacing the U.S. market with other countries, especially less wealthy ones, would be difficult. Those markets may not have the same capacity to consume or the willingness to pay higher prices, which means Vietnam could face a long-term struggle to recover the same export volume. It's possible that the economic impact could be felt for many years, potentially changing the dynamics of international trade for Vietnam.
How much can these tariffs lead to bankruptcy and unemployment in Vietnam? How many percent of the population might feel this impact significantly?
The impact of a 46% tariff on Vietnam's exports to the U.S. could lead to significant economic consequences, including potential bankruptcies and unemployment. Industries heavily dependent on exports, such as textiles, electronics, and furniture, could face severe financial strain. Businesses relying on U.S. customers might struggle to stay afloat, leading to bankruptcies, especially among small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs. In terms of unemployment, the affected sectors could see job cuts. Vietnam's labor market is highly dependent on export industries, and a significant decline in demand could result in thousands of job losses. The percentage of the population affected depends on how directly they are tied to these industries, but it's reasonable to assume that at least 10 to 20% of the working population could feel a significant impact, particularly in export-focused regions.
So just thousands of
if the trade disruption lasts for years. Overall, the social and economic fallout could be widespread, especially if the loss of U.S. exports cannot be quickly replaced by other markets. It would also strain the government's ability to maintain economic stability and growth.
So just thousands of jobs are lost. That's not much. That's not much impact, right?
While thousands of jobs may not sound like a lot on a national scale, the impact is actually quite significant when you consider the broader context. In a country like Vietnam, where a large portion of the workforce is employed in export-driven industries, even a few thousand job losses can have a ripple effect. These jobs are often concentrated in specific regions or sectors, so the local economic impact could be more severe. Moreover, the indirect effects of job losses can spread further. Suppliers, transportation companies, and service industries that support export businesses might also suffer, leading to even more job cuts. The social and economic consequences would likely be felt more deeply in areas where the export industry is a key employer. So while the number might seem small at first glance, the overall impact could be far-reaching, particularly for those directly affected.
I'm worried that this will impact badly on a lot of workers that are currently working on factories. Can you tell me something about this?
Your concern is valid. Many workers in Vietnam are employed in factories that produce goods for export, especially to markets like the US. If the tariff causes a sharp decline in demand, factories may struggle to maintain production levels. This could lead to layoffs, reduced working hours, or even factory closures, all of which would directly affect the workers. For many factory workers, these jobs are a primary source of income, and losing them can be devastating. Workers in industries like textiles, footwear, and electronics, which are heavily reliant on U.S. demand, could be at the highest risk. These industries also often employ a large number of lower-wage workers, making the impact even more significant for those in vulnerable economic positions. If factories close or reduce production, it would also affect workers' families, local communities, and even the broader economy. The government and businesses may need to invest in retraining programs, social safety nets, and alternative employment opportunities. But such solutions take time and resources to implement. The situation could lead to widespread economic hardship for workers, especially in regions where the factory sector is a major employer. The social effects could be long-lasting if there aren't enough measures in place to support displaced workers.
The Vietnam's Prime Minister have just announced that the aim of 8% GDP growth for Vietnam in 2025 it still remains. Do you think that this aim is achievable now?
Achieving an 8% GDP growth target for 2025 may now be much more challenging, given the potential impact of the U.S. tariffs and the uncertainty in global trade. If Vietnam's export sector is hit hard by the tariff, particularly with a significant portion of exports tied to the U.S. market, it could slow down economic growth. Reduced demand for goods could lead to lower industrial production, job losses, and weaker consumer spending. However, Vietnam does have a diverse economy and strong growth potential in sectors like agriculture, tourism, and domestic consumption. The government may be able to offset some of the losses by fostering these areas and seeking new trade partners. The 8% target might still be achievable if Vietnam can quickly adapt and find ways to maintain strong domestic growth, but it would require effective economic policy, foreign investments, and diversification efforts. In short, while the goal remains possible, it now faces much greater risk, and the situation will depend on how well the government can navigate the new challenges ahead.
Please answer me shortly.
Take care.
Okay, so how do you think that Vietnamese government will navigate the current situation to achieve 8% growth of GDP in 2025?
To achieve strong GDP growth in 2025, despite the challenges posed by tariffs and global trade uncertainty, the Vietnamese government will likely take several steps. 1. Diversifying export markets. The government may work to secure new trade agreements and strengthen existing partnerships with other regions, such as the EU, China, ASEAN countries, and emerging markets, reducing reliance on the U.S. market. 2. Promoting domestic consumption By boosting domestic spending and investment, Vietnam could lessen its dependence on exports. Policies could include encouraging consumer confidence, supporting local businesses, and increasing infrastructure projects to stimulate the economy. 3. Investing in technology and innovation. The government may focus on industries like high-tech manufacturing, digital services, and green energy. Strengthening these sectors could help Vietnam stay competitive in the global market, even if some traditional export industries face setbacks. 4. Strengthening the workforce. Offering retraining and upskilling programs for workers affected by job losses in the export sector could help workers transition into new industries, fostering economic resilience. 5. Enhancing regional connectivity. By improving trade infrastructure and logistics within ASEAN, Vietnam can increase its regional trade and attract foreign investment, offsetting losses in other markets. 6. Stimulating foreign investment. The government will likely continue to attract foreign direct investment, FDI.
Please search the internet for current Vietnam's economy, how they perform, and please give me a valuation about the objective of 8% growth. I think it's too far-fetched given the current Vietnam conditions. Hello? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. What's on your mind?
Please search the internet about current Vietnam's economy performance and tell me that an objective of achieving 8% growth of GDP in 2025 is reasonable or not. I think it's too far-fetched. It's unachievable given the Vietnam current economy.
You're right to question the feasibility of Vietnam's 8% GDP growth target for 2025. The recent 46% U.S. tariffs on Vietnamese exports pose a significant challenge, as the U.S. accounts for nearly 30% of Vietnam's GDP. Additionally, the World Bank forecasts a 6.8% growth for 2025. Given these factors, achieving an 8% growth appears highly ambitious.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. See you later.